Okay, I scooted back from the camera, so let's hope maybe this helps a little bit from the blurriness. Okay, so we're back on body systems, page 26. The next system that we're going to go over is the cardiovascular system, health-related problems. Well, first off, just think about cardio. What does that deal with? We're talking about heart and vascular, which is circulation. So when you hear of that system, just remember we're going to be talking about something to do with the heart. So what are some health-related problems or issues that we may have with the heart? That could be coronary artery disease, congestive heart failure, hypertension, which we talked about that. If you guys remember, when you're checking blood pressure, that is high. That is high blood pressure. So hyper, you remember, is high. And hypo, we talked about hypotension is low blood pressure. Arrhythmias, that is just an irregular heartbeat. Aneurysms, thrombosis, pulmonary embolism, and heart murmurs. Those are just some diagnoses that there is a possibility you may see of someone who already might be dealing with this disease, or if it is not something, we're going to find those signs fairly quickly. This body system, for sure, at any time, if you are caring for someone and concerned about anything that has to do with the heart or the circulatory system, may be a medical emergency. Just like the signs of a heart attack, you need to make sure that you're aware and you know what those are, so that you can act accordingly and quickly. In the aging process, it just talks a little bit about, again, like how our heart muscle can start to wear out. We have more poor circulation throughout all of our systems, which can cause us to have lack of oxygen. The blood vessels start to build up plaque, or maybe harden. So they can have, that's going to be more of where we can get caused with an aneurysm or a heart attack. Observations to report. So here is definitely, if you ever know of an individual who observes, if you observe that they tell you that they have chest pain, shortness of breath, you check the vitals, you have like that super high blood pressure, or you have an increase or decreased pulse rate, and they're complaining of chest pain along with that and other things, that may be a sign of a heart attack. So, or something going on with the heart or circulatory system. So that is something that you would want to make sure that you're aware of, that you're dialing 911 first, not reporting it to your nurse or medical supervisor. You want to get them medical attention as fast as possible. I am going to use or help you to just understand one thing that I just want you to make sure that you kind of understand. But if you are caring for someone who has a mental disability as well, sometimes chest pain can be observed by the person, and they may come to you and say, my chest hurts, I think I'm dying. And they can become, very upset about it. They're very concerned. They can get very scared. Sometimes that might not be because of them having a sign of a heart attack. So it is good for you to kind of think outside the box again too. So if someone ever comes to you and expresses that they have chest pain, find out a little bit more. Also, vital signs are going to help you a lot. Taking their blood pressure and their pulse and their oxygen level and respirations, that is going to help you as well. And the only reason I just want to talk about this is because there have been times that we've cared for some individuals who they may complain of chest pain almost every day. Okay, so then it's hard to determine, okay, are we dealing with chest pain from a heart attack? Are we dealing with possibly a issue with their chest and stuff is upset, maybe because of having heartburn or indigestion? Okay, so I just wanted to kind of give you that as an idea to think about, to make sure that you're kind of just rationalizing if they are or complaining of chest pain, that we can rule out, figuring out, okay, is this a medical issue, like an emergency medical issue, or are we dealing with another type of medical issue that you might be able to help them with or assist them with. Okay, also talks about swelling around the hands, ankles, and feet. That observation actually goes with congestive heart failure. Someone who gets a lot of swelling all of a sudden around the ends of their extremities, so their hands or ankles and the feet, can be a sign of someone who might have congestive heart failure. Because what is happening is pretty much the heart becomes congested with fluid buildup around it as well. It's not pumping well. It's slowing it down because it's got it's pretty much congested around it, that it is causing the body to not be able to circulate the fluid in the body the way it's supposed to. So it starts building up at the ends of the extremities. So just kind of be aware of that too, especially like if you were to see that on a test question that says you've observed someone who has swelling around their hands, ankles, and feet, that helps you to determine that that is something that can happen with congestive heart failure, which has to do with the cardiovascular system. Blueness of the lips, blueness of the skin, lips, ears, feet, cold feet, cyanosis, any of that. That's definitely showing poor circulation. I would be checking respirations, I'd be checking oxygen level, and again, getting the medical attention as soon as possible. The next system is the respiratory system. Respiratory, we're talking about breathing, we're talking about our lungs. So health related problems in those would be pneumonia, emphysema, cancer, tuberculosis, asthma or allergies, upper respiratory infections, strep throat, mono, maybe effects from early smoking. Um, that maybe to like a smoker's cough or something that can cause, smoking causes damage to the lungs. So they may be showing signs of that too. Also, I have kind of added this into the system too, but aspiration. Aspiration is inhaling pretty much a foreign object into the lungs. So that could be a liquid, that could be food, that could be dust, that could be anything. But inhaling something in the lungs that does not belong there can lead to pneumonia. It's called aspiration pneumonia. Aspiration pneumonia can lead to death, just like any pneumonia can. But sometimes aspiration pneumonia, we're not sometimes not aware that that could happen. Aspiration, pretty much what that is like if you've ever taken a drink of something and all of a sudden, or ate your food and all of a sudden you're like start coughing and you're like, oh, that went down the wrong throat. So what had happened is pretty much you have this flap in your throat that closes when you go to swallow food or drink, and it opens whenever we breathe, so that it goes into our lungs. But that flap is blocked so that all of our food and drink goes down the esophagus and not in our trachea where we breathe. So sometimes, as individuals get older as well, sometimes that flap becomes weak or it doesn't close all the way. That anytime that they take a drink, they could actually be aspirating a little bit of that every single time that they swallow. And that's called silent aspiration, or sometimes that can occur or happen and we're not even aware of it. So they don't have that coughing mechanism of being able to cough. Or if they do, someone who is an elderly person, their cough is not effective. So they're not able, like when you have something go down the wrong pipe, you probably easily can be able to try to cough that out and be able to get it out. So coughing is good. You want to be able to do that because it's coughing that back up so it does not get into your lungs. Well, if the person is not able to do that, it will end up settling in their lungs, causing an infection or accumulation of bacteria, which then leads to the pneumonia. So just be aware of that. So in the aging process, it does talk about like the lungs don't expand or contract as well. You have shallow breathing due to a weaker chest muscle. Their coughing is not as effective, which would make them more susceptible to the pneumonia. And I am noticing that the camera is not working well still on my side. So I'm just gonna have to stop apologizing for it. And hopefully you guys will just bear with the fact that I look blurry once in a while. Observations to report to the licensed nurse. Again, forget about the licensed nurse. I just kind of just read that out of the book, but don't. Any difficulty or shortness of breath, if you're checking that, chest pain again, or lack of oxygen, running a fever, any of those things, those respiratory rate being under 12 or over 22, that's more of a medical emergency. You need to get them some medical attention right away, so that I would be calling 911, getting assistance from the ambulance. Because obviously you know that if we cannot breathe correctly, it could lead to the worst case scenario of death, and we don't want to do that.